I'm State Representative Janine Nodder, and you're watching Chatting with Janine, this second episode of 2023. You know, I first started this show in 2006, and one of the early guests was a gentleman named Dr. Samuel Blumenfeld, a reading specialist. On my resume, I always list that I'm a director of Samuel Blumenfeld's Reading Literacy Foundation. I think I messed up the title. And the president of that organization is my guest today, but we're actually talking about taking it all the way to the Supreme Court. So welcome, Hal Shurtleff.
Thanks for having me again.
Thank you.
It's been a few years, though.
It has been a while, you know.
And I moved up to New Hampshire since I've last saw you, too.
Well, I apologize for the delay in having you back on the show. I know just before Dr. Blumenfeld died, I had him on the show, and he wasn't looking too good. And he left his tie here. So I did have you on the show shortly after that because I remember giving you the tie.
I think we have it, yeah.
Yes, and the foundation is going well. You said that you're...
Yes, well, we have the Camp Constitution. Sam willed me most of his books and his papers.
I have some of his books.
Do you really? Yeah. And we PDF'd a lot of his material. Some of his even manuscripts are unpublished. We have a lot of his recordings that were on cassettes and even some reel-to-reels, and we converted that to MP3 and MP4, so audio and video. All that's up on our website, campconstitution.net. And we get about, well, this year we got, well, I should say last year, we got about 750,000 views on that site. And we have people all over the world, mainly in the United States, that are downloading his alpha phonics, teaching people how to read properly. And even in Africa. We're big in Africa. We're big in Zimbabwe. Communist countries, Christians in communist countries seem to like the alpha phonics more so than this country.
I remember the historical signing of the starting the foundation. And Bill McNally was there, who was one of the people that got me started in doing this show at all. But none of that has anything to do with taking it to the Supreme Court. So
that's okay, a little intro. You know?
It was an intro. And so... We're talking about an incident that happened in the city of Boston regarding the Christian flag.
That's correct, yeah.
So tell us what happened.
Well, I used to be a resident of Boston. In fact, I was born there and raised there. We moved in December of 2020 to Alton, New Hampshire. But it was in September of 17, actually July. Actually, you can go back to June. I was asked to participate in a prayer meeting at a mayor of Boston's office. The mayor of Boston at the time was Marty Walsh, now Secretary of Labor. He had nothing to do with the prayer meeting. He was nowhere to be found. It was an inner city pastor that invited me. And I went along and I was very moved by it. We had blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians. When we prayed for the mayor, we prayed for safety, we prayed for all kinds of great things, as the Bible commands us to pray for our leaders. Doesn't say you have to like them, it says you pray for them. And I thought, after we left, and I thought, I said the Christian community needs to step up to the plate. And so I was motivated, so I say tongue-in-cheek, my inner P.T. Barnum, but it had to have been the Holy Spirit. This says, why not petition the city to get a permit to fly the Christian flag right around Constitution Day, which was September 17th. I think that year it fell on a Saturday or Sunday, so we wanted to have the event a little earlier during a weekday. And we're also going to point out Boston's rich Christian history, from the city set on a hill, John Winthrop, to Pope John Paul, the first sitting pope to ever visit the city of, in the United States. It was the first place he went, and lots of stuff in between. And I called the lady that is in charge of the permitting, whom I dealt with in the past. We flew the Gadsden flag there about 4 years earlier.
Yes, the Don't Tread on Me.
With the yellow the yellow with a rattlesnake. And Garrett Lear, our late friend, Pastor Garrett Lear, was there on hand, all 6'7" of him with a musket, downtown Boston. It was a great day.
Pastor.
It was a great day. And so anyway, it took a while. It was a lot of going back and forth. I wasn't getting the permit. So I finally got a call in September. So 2 months had come by, had elapsed, and she said, it's been denied. I said, well, can you send me an official email or a letter, official response? And she said, I know this isn't over. So she was sort of on our side at this point. And the official email I got later on that day said, it's a separation of church and state. If you have other flags you may want to consider, secular flags, that we'll think about having that. And so when I saw that term, separation of church and state, I said, I know we have a case. There's no question about it, because first of all, that's not in the First Amendment. Separation of church and state is not there. And by the way, I wanted to show what the Christian, I think they showed a little bit, but it's a very simple construct. It's non-denominational, so it's not a Vatican flag or an Episcopal flag. And it was designed by a couple of gentlemen at Coney Island. And I tell people a couple of good things come out of Coney Island. Nathan's famous and the Christian flag.
And the hot dogs?
Yeah, that's where, and also the Cyclone, I guess, right? The amusement park there. And I've been to Nathan's Famous in Brooklyn, so I do appreciate it. And it was a Sunday school superintendent, Charles Orton, and a guy named Diffendorfer, Ralph Diffendorfer. And they came up with this simple construct, white being pure, blue being valor, and red is the Latin cross, the blood-stained cross of Christ. And mostly, you'll see it mostly in Protestant churches today. At one time, I think the National Council of Churches adopted it, but they don't do that anymore. They're a very left-wing entity. And so they said it was a violation of the First Amendment. Initially, that was the initial claim. So that evening, I sent a news release around to local media, newspapers, radio stations, and television stations. And I sent to some people, friends of mine, Camp Constitution supporters. One of them was a woman named Lynn Roberts, who was Second Amendment Sisters of Massachusetts. And she says, Hal, get a hold of Liberty Counsel. And I was sitting in my living room with a laptop, and I went right to libertylc.org. That's their website. And that's a Christian entity that does pro bono legal work for people like me. And I put down what was going on, and I might have copy and pasted the email, I can't remember. And the very next morning I get a call from Richard Mass, one of their attorneys. He said, we want to take your case.
Nice.
I said, wow, great. And groups like this, they can only take so many cases. And they told me that they have three prerequisites before they take a case. Number one, is it winnable? Number two, will it set a precedent? And number three, is the individual organization credible? I guess 2 out of 3 is not bad, right? I say that kidding.
Oh.
So I was a good client, though. They gave me advice. I would do whatever they said that asked me to do. I did it. I didn't give them any difficulty. And they sent a demand letter the very first mid-September. And I remember getting calls from the Boston Herald and I think Channel 4. It was NBC.
And weren't you were like on Fox and Friends?
Well, this was the initial media coverage. Yeah, it made some media. It made Breitbart. It made a lot of online. And I got an interview, but it was the front page of the Boston Herald. It said no fly zone. So the demand letter is basically saying to the city that you need to allow Mr. Shurtleff to get his permit to fly the flag, or we'll sue you. So the lawsuit came almost a year later, July of 18, and then we got more media coverage. I was on the Jeff Cooner show and a few other shows. Dan Ray, I think, had me on, and it made more media, a lot of daily newspapers all over the country. And we had our first hearing in the Joe Moakley Courthouse in Boston, so it was in the federal level from the beginning. And the judge that we faced was Denise Casper. She was an Obama appointee, so we weren't too optimistic. And she was also one presided over Whitey Bulger's case, so she got a lot of, she got well known because of that. And she denied us.
Of course.
And then we filed, we brought it to the First Circuit Court of Appeals, denied again 3-0. And then we had another suit made up. We had discovery. We had more facts. I think they just determined there were 287 permits that the city gave to other, including us, from when they started it, I think in 08 or 07. And it included pro-communist Cuban group, pro-Chinese communist groups, LGBTQ, and all that. But we were the first flag they ever denied. And they were just kind of routinely. And the defendant, Mr. Rooney, who's probably a pretty nice fellow, they just got very bad advice from their attorneys. They're separated. So he got bad advice. He said if we just called it the Camp Constitution flag, they would have allowed us to fly it. But because the word Christian was in it. And it's ironic, too. The city of Boston has its own. Oh, I wanted to mention that in the email itself was embedded the city seal, which is also on the flag. There's a Bible verse from 1 Kings It's in Latin, so most people, but I know a few words here and there.
Yeah.
So they have a Bible verse on their own city flag, which they fly on that flagpole. That's fine, but something called the Christian flag was considered
okay.
a stench in their nostrils, so to speak. So we were denied, and then finally, June of 2020, we were denied in 23 now. So January of 22, the Circuit Court of the First Circuit Court of Appeals said no, 3-0. And we appealed it to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the irony is that the gentleman who appealed it used to live 2 doors down from my mother-in-law.
Oh, wow. So how many courts did you go through before it got to the Supreme Court?
First it would be two. It was the first federal district court, and then the first court of appeals, and then the U.S. Supreme Court.
Okay, so it's been so long since I learned that.
Yeah, so there was 3
school.
levels, but they filed a second suit. So Liberty Counsel worked very, very hard. They were determined to win this. And the Supreme Court decided to hear it September 30th. They announced that they would hear it. Would be in 21, in September of 21. They said that they would hear the case. Boy, time goes by so fast.
Yes,
You have
it
to
does.
think about what year was that. Now they only hear about 1% of all the cases that go in front of them every year. So just the fact that they would hear, and it takes 4 justices to agree to hear the case. And that itself was, and then
Do you know who the 4 are?
I don't offhand. Okay. I don't know if we really know. And then, so that made lots of media. The city offered to settle. Now, we didn't make this public until after it was decided. In October, I remember of 21, they said, we'll cover your legal fees, and you can raise the flag. Now, it was all pro bono, so we didn't have any legal fees, but if the city lost, they would have to pay the legal fees. And I said, no, I don't want to settle. I said, it's bigger than just one little ceremony. And our attorney at the time said, we don't want to settle either. And I said, well, we're not out, whatever you're out, $500,000 in legal fees away. He said, don't worry, we just got a big donation from Gavin Newsom in California. They won a case there.
Really?
And they got like over $2 million. I said, I don't gamble. I said, but let's just roll those dice, So they had oral argument in January 18. We went down there with some of our supporters and participants, and we had a beautiful prayer rally, prayer vigil in the evening, and then we had a rally in the morning. Now we weren't allowed inside the courthouse; they still had COVID restrictions. So just our attorney.
This was January 2022.
Yeah.
Last year. Okay.
Yeah. Last year. Yeah. But we heard the oral argument across the street. Liberty Counsel owns a building. And it was interesting. We had 2 of our attorneys just sitting around, and they were just laughing and smiling. He said, even the left-wing justices are in our favor.
Really?
And the city's attorney,
wow.
And they hired a prestigious law firm, Boston Brahman law firm. He wasn't doing a good job. They said he's getting paid good money to lose the case for them. And we actually got the decision. And I understand they usually decide within a few days, but they don't make it public. Until, before they adjourn in the summer, which is late June, I think, is when they adjourn. The whole world found out because of the Roe v. Wade case and all the horrible things that were happening to the justices and all the harassment they got. So I think it was May 2nd or May 3rd is when I got a phone call from the attorney, and he said, Hal, we won. He said 9-0,
9-0?
9-0, yeah.
Wow, that is incredible.
And my phone rang off the hook. I mean, I got NPR, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox News, Newsmax, just Epic Times.
Chatting with Janine?
Yeah, chatting with, of course, that's I put that one on top, of course, Although you took a little while to get to it,
I know,
yeah.
Been busy.
And
I'm a grandma now.
Well, I'm a granddad, too.
Wow. I remember when your kids were little.
I never thought that they would actually allow us the permits. So the city discontinued what we call a third-party flag raising back in about a year and a half ago. They thought let this case play out, and they suspended. So there is no flag raisings by any groups at City Hall Plaza. But because we went under they changed their policy. But under the old policy, it's one that we were dealing with, we got a chance to raise the flag. We had about 200 people there. We had a lot of media.
And when was that?
That was August, early August of last year. Yeah.
Oh, well, 2022.
Of last year. And 2 of our campers, 2 brothers, Benjamin and Franklin Soon. One of them played the violin.
Love their names.
Oh yeah, and the other one played the bugle. as we raised the Amazing Grace, as we raised the flag. And we had some of the same speakers that we had planned to be at that original one. Reverend Stevie Kraft,
Yes, I
talking
know.
about racial harmony, the
Dr.
need for racial
Kraft.
harmony.
Has he been on my show, Stephen
He
Kraft?
may have, yeah. He's now living in Lexington, Massachusetts.
Tell
by
him
the
I
way.
said
Yeah.
hello.
I certainly will, yeah. And we had Pastor William Levy, formerly of the Sudan, talked about the blessings of liberty. Mr. Richard Howell, who's a historian, talked about, and these were short, 5-10 speeches. They were rally speeches. These weren't dissertations. And the man who emceed the program was one of the attorneys, the one that actually hand-delivered, who lived 2 doors down from us. His dad is the pastor of a very large Haitian Baptist church in Boston. We even had a Buddhist monk.
Supporting us?
But because I've been working with the Falun Gong people, the people that are persecuted by the Chinese communists. So I invited them, and someone said, "Oh, I saw Reverend so-and-so." I said, "Reverend? Yeah, sure." And the guy showed up at a Buddhist, but it was interesting. The Buddhist monk feels living in a country with a Christian majority, however you want to put it. He had no trouble with that Christian flag. In other words, he knows that there's liberty and freedoms, even though we don't have theological agreement, to say the least, that there's freedom in this country. It's because of our Christian roots. And so I said, yeah.
On the show I taped before this one, I had mentioned my oldest friend, and we met before we were even 10 years old. We were still 9. And she visited me for the first time this summer of 2022, and we went to Boston. She'd never been there before. We started walking the Freedom Trail, and we saw on the steps where America the Beautiful was first sung. Do you know where that is?
Oh, yeah, it's a Park Street Church.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really right on the Freedom Trail.
Yeah, and then I showed her where Sam Adams was buried, and Mother Goose.
Mother Goose, yeah. And it's just a stone's throw from City Hall, is where we had a ceremony. And then, of course, lots of media, more media, but mostly local, not so much national. But it made there were people that I haven't heard from in 30 years getting a hold of me. Hal, I was, reading
I was
the
so
newspaper.
proud of you. I'm
Yeah.
sorry it took me so long to reach out, but I was
all
so
right.
proud of you, and I read about it, and
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, Hal.
Yeah, it was very, very. When I just say God gets the glory, I just
He does. Amen.
going about doing the master's business.
Oh, you had
So,
mentioned.
but in early November, the city settled with Liberty Counsel, and I got a call from the attorney, and before the news broke, he said, "What do you think we settled for?" I said, "Well, back last year, you said, well, I'm thinking it was like $500,000. So what? $1 million?" He said $2.1 million.
Wow, and they will use that money to help others.
Well, exactly, yeah. Now, some people thought the newspaper story like, "Oh, we were getting it." I said, "No." I said, "Some people." I got one person was looking for, "Hey, I need a new truck. Can you help me out?" I wish I could, but I said, and Liberty Counsel earned every penny of that. I mean, they worked very, very hard to do that. And they do a lot of pro bono work, and they don't win every case. And we don't win a case,
you don't get paid, right?
You don't get paid.
You had mentioned Pastor Garrett Lear. Oh, where he's showing the pictures of.
Yes, that came out early November. Yeah.
Yeah. Pastor Garrett Lear has been on my show before too. The Patriot Pastor. He had crafted a challenge coin that says, with General John Stark, and says, "Live free or die. Death is not the worst of evil." The very first person to receive that challenge coin was Governor Christopher Sununu.
Really?
And the second person to receive that coin was yours truly on this show.
Wow.
And of course, he's passed away.
Yeah.
I have his picture hanging in my office up in Concord.
That's great.
And
yeah.
he's missed. So we've lost a lot of mutual
yes,
friends.
I was at his memorial service, which was held in Alton, right down a 5-minute drive from me, and I'm very friendly with the folks in that church. And it was the first time I went to a service, and he had recorded a message for us.
Oh my goodness!
And you can actually you can find it if you go to the Alton Community Church YouTube channel. You can hear it. Yeah, it was quite a ceremony.
Wow.
I ran for the Senate. General
Don Bulldog.
General Bulldog. They became good friends, and he was there. Yeah, with his wife.
I don't think I knew he knew it.
Yeah.
And they knew each other.
They became good friends. Yeah.
So.
Well, when Garrett Lear says something good about somebody, he really vets people, pretty hard, So if he likes you, he's really did a lot of background information on you,
Wow. Yeah, he was a good man.
He was. Yeah.
May his memory be eternal.
We have a lot of his classes on our YouTube channel. He gave a class the summer before he passed, would be 21, and it was on the Pilgrims, the 400th anniversary. And he didn't look too bad, but he knew. He said he's only got a few months to live, but he passed away, I think, in the following January. Yeah.
One of the first time I had Dr. Samuel Blumenfeld on the show, because he's another friend of ours that has passed, being the reading specialist and being, I thought, oh, I got to have it fancy. So I had a tablecloth and I had crystal glasses. And he said, chatting leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because it's not proper English.
Right.
It's very informal
no
chatting.
ing, yeah.
Right, it's just chatting with it.
Yeah.
So, and you've been on the show before. It's numerous times, but it's been a long time.
It's been a while, yeah.
Now that you know where we're at again, and you're closer, I'd like you to come back.
It may even be equal distance, because I was living in
'cause
Boston.
Yes.
Although it's a much nicer drive than it is from Route 128.
Yeah. But I'd like to do a show on Camp Constitution sometime.
Yeah.
So if you want to come back, we only have about 6 minutes left.
I can talk a little bit about Camp Constitution if I could. Yeah. Well, we're a New Hampshire-based charitable trust. We were founded back in '09. And this will be our 15th annual family camp.
I remember when you started it.
We started in '09, yeah, so 15 camps.
Wow.
And it will be from July 16th to the 21st at the Singing Hills Christian Camp in Plainfield, New Hampshire, which is about an hour north of Concord, just a little south of West Lebanon. Actually, it borders West Lebanon.
Well, my kids are all grown now, so I might be able to come.
Well, you know what? It's a family camp. We have people from... We even have grandparents that come. We have babies, because I was involved with the camp program. It was pretty good, but it was just teenagers. And the problem was, Dad and the teenagers come to camp. Mom stays home with the little ones. Mom's not having a great time. It's hot in the summertime, and all of her helpers, her teenage helpers, are at camp. They come back, Mom, we had a great time. Yeah, but I didn't. So now you bring Mom and bring the little ones. We have a program for the little ones. It's called Patriot Camp, run by Pastor Kraft's wife, Edith, who's a retired school teacher. We have a lady with the DAR comes in and does her. We have sometimes we have people who do reenactments. We had General John Stark, reenactor. Richard Wright came last year, and we have I would say some of the world's top instructors. We for a couple of years we had a British Lord Christopher Monckton, that would come.
I know who he is.
Oh, he's great.
I went to an energy conference and he did a presentation.
Yeah, we had brought him up here, and then we had the 603. I got a hold of the 603 Alliance. They said, hey, he's got some time available, and so they came down to the camp and brought him to. They hosted him somewhere.
Oh, get him back. I'll say hello.
Well, he won't be coming this year. He had trouble. In fact, we tried to get the governor. He's friends with Johnson, I guess the dad, and we tried to get him here in 2020, but it didn't work out. But anyway, we got some top-notch instructor. Professor Willie Soon is one of the world's top atmospheric scientists and climate realists. His whole family comes. And then we have year-round activities. I get on shows like this. We started a ladies' retreat about 3 years ago, and so our ladies' retreat will be held at the same venue at Singing Hills in the first weekend in May, so it'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we're going to have one of your colleagues, the youngest state rep.
Valerie?
Valerie,
yes.
the youngest elected official in the country.
Yep.
And she says she loves the Constitution, so I said, come on up. And we're going to have a lady she didn't star in the movie, but she played a role in the movie Unplanned, the Abby Johnson movie.
Oh, yes.
She played the abortion doctor, the abortion nurse in that scene. And we're Facebook friends. We talk on the phone, but I've not met her. But she's dying. She's giving me a reason to get out to New England. I've got family in Bar Harbor, Maine, so she's going to be one of the instructors or one of the presenters there.
Nice.
Yeah. And then we started a weekend retreat in Tuftonboro, which is a little bit closer to me. It's just north of Wolfboro. And that's the last week and first few days in October.
Representative Glenn Cordelli is from Tuftonboro.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if you've met him yet.
I may have, yeah. Yeah, so then we have events. We started we have a place in Lexington. We don't own it, but I'm the trustee of the house. And that's where we house some of Sam Blumenfeld's personal effects. And we have meetings there, and we're going to have a homeschool group from Connecticut come up for the Concord and Lexington battle reenactment. So we do what we can. We just started a potluck in Lebanon, Maine, which is right next to Rochester. We do our first one this coming Friday at the First Congregational Church here at 6:30.
Okay.
So our website has all of our activities, our Facebook page,
campconstitution.net,
and we also have an online bookstore, online shop. We got all kinds of great things, books and bumper stickers, and
I've got a lot of books from you over the years.
and even this little pin, this little Christian flag, a U.S. flag
I
pin.
saw that when you walked in,
Yeah,
and I didn't
yeah.
get a close look at it, but
Yeah.
now I can see
And we
it.
just came up with a sign that says "Fight Racism, Defund Planned Parenthood," a yard sign
Yeah.
that we just created. So
There's a lot of meaning to that, but I want to be there for the reenactment, so let me know when that is.
okay, it will
Yeah.
be the April 16th. That's a Sunday.
Oh,
It's well, you
okay.
can come the morning of, but either way, you can talk about it
Yeah,
as time
just
goes
remind
on.
me.
Yeah.
All right. And we're about out of time. I have 90 seconds left. So, Hal, it's been nice seeing you again. I'm
It was
sorry
a
it's been
pleasure
so
coming
long.
here in studio. Yeah, it's been, like I say, over 2 years.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. It's
Well,
all-
the gal that was on before you, she'd never been on my show in Merrimack before.
Oh,
She'd
really?
only been
Yeah.
on one of the other shows that I've done across the river.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I've known you longer. I met you in the winter of 98, 99.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm sure we knew of each other from the magazine.
From the New American Magazine
Yeah.
and the articles you did on the POW issue. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess that's how I got started in all this. But anyway.
It's interesting what gets people involved. Sometimes it's one issue and then it's a bigger picture. Once you go into that one issue and look around and say, "Wow, it's a lot more than I thought."
Yeah. All right, well, thank you.
Well, thanks for having me.
being on,
Yeah, God
and,
bless you.
Thank God bless you too, and congratulations on winning your case
Thank
at the
you.
United States Supreme Court. That's pretty
9-0
amazing.
too,
You're
yeah.
the 9-0, and you're the only person I know that's ever had a court case.
Wow. Okay.
All the way to the Supreme Court, and you won. That's awesome. So thank you for watching, and I'll be back again with some new shows.